folks, hey, welcome back to Gifford's Rope Walk. It's been a little while since we posted a video, so I wanted to give you a little update. We have done some repairs on the spinners since the last time we took them out, and we took a little vacation, went up and visited my family in Nebraska, and we took the spinner machine up there, let all the nieces and nephews spin some jump ropes. We had some fun there, and we're kind of in the middle of events at the moment. We've got another event coming up in February at the Arkansas Renaissance Fair. They're having a Viking thing, is what they're calling it, a Viking festival of sorts, and we're going to be out there again. So during this break time, what I've been focusing on is my attire. We have found a website, lightinthebox.com, and that's where we bought these Viking shirts, and we bought pants and shoes and everything that came with it. It was a decent price, but they're very minimal. The sizes, I had to actually extend these with some fabric and make it a little bit wider. This is linen, so it's very breathable, but it gets wrinkly very quick, and I had to actually cut the sleeves to help my arms fit in them a little bit better. But this is not really a full-size tunic, so being that we're dealing with fibers, my mind started going down the whole rabbit hole of weaving and thinking about weaving fabrics and making my own fabrics, trying to be authentic in somewhat of a sorts, and did a lot of research on the different types. There's linen, there is cotton, there is wool, and then there's a lot of polys and nylons and acrylics and polypropylenes and things like that. So I tried to think of some ways to do it a little bit more authentic, and to have a hands-on approach with it. I wanted to have some fabrics that I was able to kind of create. There's a lot of great fabrics that are machine made, and it's very uniform, right? So I was trying to find ones that aren't as uniform, like to have the little mess ups. And some of the things I was looking at, I mean, the big weavers are out there, you can buy them, but they're 4, 5, 6, 10 grand a piece. There's a gravity weaver that's some wood frameworks, and you drop down your yarns and then you can weave them back and forth. I think that's the one I'm going to eventually go with, but I needed to start with a smaller bite. This is called an Inkle loom that I found is a smaller type of a looming process, and there's a couple different ways to use this, so I thought I'd start this off. But at the same time, I think what I'm going to end up having to do is, the closest thing I could get to actual fabric was not to weave it myself, but to try to find fabric that was close to it. And the closest thing that I found is this fabric here. Has a cotton warp and then a linen weft, so it's a 50-50 mix, so it'll give a similar vibe. You can see it is still wrinkles, so I have to be a little careful with that. And I found a really good tutorial online of how to cut out a simple tunic. So this tunic will actually go down almost to my knees, and I was going to do an under tunic with this lighter fabric, and then I was going to try to find wool fabric, not boiled wool, not the fuzzy stuff. I can't remember what the word is for that, but actual woven thin wool yarn. They have that, but it's a little bit pricey too. It's about $40 a yard or more, depending on how fancy you get with it. But I'm going to go ahead and pick this up for about $10 a yard. So I'll make these as an under tunic, and I'll record that process, and then I'll make another tunic for an over tunic with the wool, so I have some layers there. So I wanted to talk about the fabrics. That was kind of fun to learn about, and the weaving part. So I'm not going to be able to weave, maybe with the gravity one I might be able to weave a patch of fabric. That's going to take some time though to do. It takes a while to get all that set up. So I wanted to start with something, at least to start get weaving going on in my brain. This Inkle loom, this design that's on here, is one that I found that really caught my eye, that I enjoyed. It's called the Dublin Dragon. So it's like a two-headed snake here, and it just repeats itself. And I'm learning to do this particular weave. Now with an Inkle loom, there's a couple different ways you can do it. You don't necessarily have to use cards. The original way is I've got these warps, pardon me, I'm still learning the names on them. Heddles. So these heddles actually go on here. If you're doing just two colors, an up and a down, then as you wrap around and you load your loom, one wrap goes across the top and you put your heddle on that one strand, and then the second one goes underneath and it goes around the back. So you can pull this down and then pull the other string down, and that goes up and down with your string heddles. The cards gives you an additional dimension, because with the single heddle you can only do 2 strands, and that's actually how I started off. This right here is the one I started with. You can tell here I was really kind of inconsistent, but this is cotton, and I used the same cotton for my warp and my weft. So I loaded this up, and then I would push it down, and then there's a shuttle here that you just wrap your cotton on, and that's what goes back and forth on your weft. So I started to get, you can tell it down here where it got a little more snug, a little more consistent. I had to pull it a little bit more. I wasn't tensioned enough here. You can see how that's really loose, and it's about 2 or 3 of my warps were just not lining up. So I had to get to the point where I was pulling it snug and consistently, and that's what I got out of it. Once I got comfortable with that, I realized that this particular type of weaving is not giving me the same desired effect as fabric, because on the fabric, both your warp and your weft are both shown in the fabric. They lay side by side in the over-under pattern, where with the Inkle loom, they don't lie side by side, they actually squish each other, so you only see the warp. You don't see the weft except for on the outside. It squishes this. So even though, if you'll see here at the top, if I were to lay all of these yarns side by side, it'd be pretty wide. But here, the product that you're made, this is actually 4 yarns thick. 2 on top, 2 on bottom. And that's the same with this particular weaving style, is it's twice as thick, because you have 1 yarn up and 1 yarn under, and the weft that's going back and forth is squashing them so that they're not laying side by side, but they're actually on top and below each other. So with the fabric, it's lighter and fluffier because they are side by side. They don't go on top of each other, and then the weft that goes around them gives them a little bit of extra space too. So that's why it's thinner and smoother. So with this one, this is great for trim, for belts, for handles or straps, putting that on a bow and arrow, or putting it on your money satchel, a leather basket, leather bag, or anything like that. So I'm starting to get the hang of this. I used acrylic here just to get started and get my hands on it. I've messed up a couple different times trying to learn to read the simple over under. I've got that down fairly decent. That one's not so bad. But if you actually want to get design out of it, over and under is not going to do it. Like, even if you want a simple twill or a herringbone, which just gives you kind of staggered diagonals, you have to be able to skip one. Now you can do that with this string style, where you can actually set up multiple breaks. I forgot what the term is. You can actually set up a set of strings here, and you can pull them up. You can use a set of strings here and pull them down. And I've seen somebody use 3, where you can pull them and push them and get 3 ups. But every time you pull one up, that means the other 3 are staying below. So I think it gets really heavy, and it starts to look kind of bad on the backside. So I'm trying to keep all that in mind. This one is supposed to be a double sided. You can see how that double-headed snake looks really good right there. It's supposed to be the same here, but in red, the double-headed snake, it's not as prolific here. It doesn't show up as good on the back side as it does the front, but you can still get a nice pattern off of the back. It doesn't look like sometimes if you're cross-stitching or sewing or whatnot and you have like huge big old messes on the back. This one would still look okay if someone saw the back of that without it looking like a mess. And this is also the Inkle loom here. I've got just a short loop on this, but you're supposed to be able to go zigzag back and forth, and that will give you about 9 feet of length is what the gentleman that's let me borrow this one said that he's gotten out of this guy. So I've got it tested up here. I went and actually picked up some cotton, and the difference between the cotton yarn and this acrylic is the acrylic is a lot more flexible. The cotton is more rigid, so it doesn't give as much. I think it'll be more consistent. And so I've got the black. I like this maroon color better than this rich red because I think it would be more available in nature. I think this red is just really bright. And then they didn't have a tan. They had this gray. I figured that would pop pretty good. And then the gold and the black. So I was going to go ahead and take this guy off, and I was going to load this up. But I wanted to show you guys this pattern here. If you're ever interested in learning the patterns, the cards themselves, you can buy these cards, but I was impatient as I'm practicing and learning this stuff. I almost went and made my own Inkle loom. I was about to rip off some wood out of the house and a wood hanger and build this until I remembered that someone had one of these and gave them to them. And then you can buy plastic cards, or you can buy laser cut cards, and they're fairly cheap. But I just took an old cardboard box, a Coke box. I guess this one's Dr. Pepper, and it is 2.5-inch squares. And then I just took my hole punch and just punched some holes in the corners and made my own cards. So there's these cards have been working really good. It's hard cardboard and it's really thin, and they slide really, really well. The big thing for me is I watched 3 or 4 dozen YouTube videos trying to learn how to set this up, and then trying to figure out how to weave. This whole first section, about a foot of it, you can tell it's kind of choppy and not so smooth, and then here it kind of smooths out, and I'm more consistent with it. But I was trying to figure it out, and I kept getting confused on the readings of this guy. The cards themselves, they are labeled from A in the top right, and then it goes clockwise, A, B, C, D. And there's a right-handed face card, so your letters are to the right, A's in the front, or there's a left-handed face card where your A is to the left and it faces you. These patterns are really good. There's a lot of great YouTube videos that show you how to set up the cards and the patterns. There's another page that I didn't print off, but it shows you the way to set them up. And then it also shows you the ways to load the cards, where you're sitting. See, this one shows it's right-handed face. And then it shows you how to load the cards with an S or a Z. And that is what gives it the slant on the yarn. If it's slanting to the left or to the right, is how you load them in the cards. And then the big thing for me was the forwards and the backwards. So if you haven't seen any other videos and you're still trying to learn all that out, watch those videos. But what got me was when I'm looking at line 1, the white backgrounds mean you're supposed to roll it forward, and the dark colored backgrounds mean I'm supposed to roll it backwards. And so I've got 3 forward, 2 backwards, 2 forwards, 6 backwards, and then I've got 5 forwards, backwards, forwards. Now, the confusing part for me is I got lost in the middle of my weave, and I was trying to figure out where I was at, and I was trying to count them. When I'm reading the pattern, if I'm going forward, here's the trick that helped me, is if I'm going forward, the color that I'm looking for, you can see what color is in the block. That should be in the top left corner, because when you go forward, that's all the same there. Let me look at this guy. So this one here, I have a yellow in this top left. So it'll show a yellow forward. I'm turning it forward. So the yellow is going to be in the top right. So it stays on the top when you roll it. The same thing coming backwards, which threw me off because the front colors are going to be different when you're coming backwards. If you're wanting to come backwards, you have to look at the back circle that's red, because when you're pulling it backwards, it's coming to the front. So that's the color that stays on the top of the weave. So if you ever get lost and you need to see where you're at, if you're rolling it forward, you got to look at the first circle. If you're rolling it back, you got to look at the back one. That was the key. Once I understood that, I haven't had any problem keeping up with it. So when you're looking at your patterns and you see a color, again, if you're rolling forward, the color that you're looking for should be in the top left. If you're rolling backwards, the color on the pattern is on the back right before you move it. So that way you can look and see exactly where you're at on the pattern, and then you shift it. So I'm going to go ahead and do a couple of these here real quick just to show you. And so I pull in my yarn. I've got this shuttle here, and it's kind of funny is sometimes I'll use it, and a lot of times I'll use my fingers because it's a little easier to get that in, and then I'll feed my shuttle through. And watching those YouTube channels, I was watching people that have been doing this for years, and it's cool to see that they use their fingers too. So I use just a piece of cardboard here to mark where I'm at. And I am at the very first row here. And I'll put a picture of this on there, a link. But the first three go forward. So what I do is I pull my cards forward and then I spin them. Okay, the next two go backwards. So I take two and I just pull them backwards. The next two go forward and I slide them forward, and then I slide them. I try to keep them back so I know which ones I've done. And then the next six go backwards. So I go 3 and then 3. So I'll slide those 3. Whoop, see, I'm going the wrong direction. Okay, I'm coming backwards. Sometimes those yarns get caught up on each other. I have to just flip them over. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Uh-oh. Sometimes I gotta take a moment there and just straighten them all out. Okay, so those are those 6. So then I have 5 left, and those 5 all go forward. So let's see if I can do it without mixing them up. There we go. So now that they're all done, I slide them all back just a little bit, and then I run my finger in there. So the shuttle, you're supposed to press it forward first, and with the acrylic, it likes to kind of mush together a little bit, so I got to kind of pancake it a little bit. Then I pull my yarn through, nice and snug. Then I move my marker up. That's the other thing I've got to be consistent with. When I was first getting going, I would move my marker and then try to remember where I was at in the step of the next move. So I don't touch my marker until my yarn is through, and then I'm ready to go to the next one. So my next 3 go forward, my next 2 go backwards, and I should have a white and a yellow in the back, which I do. So every once in a while I check it. My next 2 go forward, and I should have a yellow and a white, but they should be on the left side. There's my yellow, there's my white. Okay, I roll them forward, and then I slide them back so I know that they're done. The next 6 roll backwards, and I should have a white, but I'm looking in the back right corner, white, yellow, white, red, white, yellow. So there we go. I just roll those 6, and that time they actually slid really well. Then the next 5 go forward, and I should have in the left corner yellow, white, and then these 3 are all the same. So I'll roll those 4 or 5 forward. Okay. Use my finger a little bit. And the shuttle really works good of keeping it level. Okay, and then I move it forward. All right. Now, I got to be careful on this. Sometimes when I'm turning the cards, I don't really catch all the yarns, so I try to pay a little bit close of attention. I haven't had that much of a problem now that I pay attention to it, but I got kind of caught up a couple times where I wasn't getting all of the yarns. And then you just slide the whole thing forward, and you slide your cards back, and you got to make sure they don't fall off. I have had that one fall off a couple times, and I said some choice words at it and stretched it all back on there. All right. I don't think I moved it. There we go. So the next 5 forward. Oh, see, I'm going backwards. So I need to make sure white and red. There we go. Forward. 2 backwards. Other way, other way. Okay, 6 forward. And it's nice when there's multiples of 3s or 2s. I can just grab those and count them, and they slide really good. Okay, 2 backwards, 3 forwards. All right. And you see there, that head of that snake is finishing up there. Okay, slide it forward. So let's slide forward the 5 I'm working on, and I'm going to go forward, 2 backwards, and then 6 forward again. Okay, 2 backwards, 3 forwards. Pull that nice and consistent. And the more consistent I get, the better I'm getting with this black. And it's kind of cool. This design leaves a little bit of a black for the eye of the snake. It's not as prevalent in some of these, but it's, might have to open that up just a little bit, but it's pretty cool. There's a little eye there. Okay, 3 forward, 2 backwards. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 2 backwards, 5 forward. And then I have this guy, there's a backwards turn. I saw someone do this on a weaving technique, is rather than going just around the loop, you crisscross against the back of it. And what that does is it keeps the thickness in the back of it rather than making your shuttle thicker, so you can still get that crease and it's easier to get through. So that crisscross on the back is a really cool tool. Okay, 3 forward, 2 backwards, 6 forward, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 2 backwards, 5 forward. Now I don't know if I got that last one. I did not. The good thing about the edges is that you can see where they're at the other ones. See, that one's at an A, that one's at an A, that one's at an A. That way I can know that they're lined up. Okay, nice and straight. Okay, that snake's head is done. All right. Now these ones are cool where it's like the whole thing. I got 3, 6, 9. So all 9 of these guys go forward. Okay, 6 go backwards. 3 go forward. That one's pretty quick. When there's just a big solid turn like that, makes it nice and neat. Whoop. There we go. All right, same thing. 3, 6, 9. Turn all those forward. Beautiful. 3, 6 go backwards, and 3 go forward. Now as these are getting woven up, the tension does increase, and so there's an adjustable rod. This one slides forward. Okay, 2 more left. All right, so these 5 go forward. These 6 go backwards, 2 go forward, 2 go backwards, 3 go forwards. Okay. Just gonna keep it nice and straight. Unwrap a little. Okay, last one. 5 go forward, 6 go backwards, 2 go forward, 2 backwards, 3 forwards. And I'm not a big knitter. I don't knit because for me it seems to take too long, but I like to crochet because I can see some results. So right there, in just that couple minutes, we did 1 full rotation. Now I'm back down to 1 of the pattern, and I can see a snake. It looks good. It feels like I'm progressing. I'm getting some things done. Now I don't have a swivel on these guys, so on my ends where they're always forward, I do 1 full row forward, and then the next one I do backwards. All the other ones have enough that it's 6 forward and 6 back, so they all take the twist out of them just with the natural rotation. And then if I look at the cards, we can see that we're all back to the standard D on the top left. So they're all right facing with A. So, but you can see this tension right here, how it's all spun. So on the next 12, I'll spin these guys backwards and I'll unspin these 3. But you can see how there's not a whole lot of twist in these guys. Those are all laid out flat. So I just want to show you what I'm working on. We're excited about getting some new tunics made, and we're excited about the fabrics, and we're excited about the yarn. We are still making ropes. We're still making woven and spun belts and the Viking jump ropes, belts, sashes, and even the Scottish tartan colored ropes as well. So we're glad that you guys could see where we're at, and if you'd like any products, we do have a website that's up, giffordropewalk.com, and we can get anything shipped to you, and anything that we do get ordered, we will record the whole process of making those and get those out as well. But if we don't see you till the Viking event, we'd love to have you come out in February to Mount Vernon and enjoy the Viking thing. Come out and have some Viking vibes and have a good time. So thanks for watching, and we'll catch you all later. Bye.